you for watching Dro TV. Welcome back to the CannaBiz show. Our guest today is Brooke Westlake. She's the founder and owner of Women in Cannabis Expo, as well as Legally Blonde and Blunt. Brooke, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to tell you all the things that I've been up to and what we're working on.
Yes, we met at KushCon in Tampa a few weeks back. When I mentioned the show, you were excited to talk about the Women in Cannabis Expo and what you're doing with this business and some of the other businesses you have. But before we do that, Brooke, can you enlighten us a little bit about how you got into cannabis and your business background?
Yeah, so my story is a little different. I think in this space, I'm kind of finding that everybody's story is actually a little bit different, which is pretty awesome. So I actually have a 20-year background in healthcare. And if you would have asked me 10 years ago if I would be in cannabis, I probably would have laughed you out of a room. I would have been like, what are you talking about? No, I'm in healthcare. I'm going to stay in healthcare. And I went back and did my master's later in life. The company I had worked for the past 10 years in healthcare, we closed in 2018. So I decided it was time to do my master's. And as I was wrapping that up in 2019, because I have a master's in criminal justice, I went to a mentor and I was looking at buying a fingerprint drug testing business. And my mentor said to me, you should open a cannabis testing lab. And I thought that was the weirdest thing ever. And I was like, what are you talking about? And my mentor said, it's a very viable business, like do the research and get back to me. And I'm like, this was not the intention of the phone call. So I was really caught off guard by it. But I did the research and I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And then I was doing more research and like what was going on with the markets and the industry. And I'm in Nevada. So we actually legalized cannabis for medical use in 2000. But we legalized it for recreational in 2016. So the timing was ripe. It was great. And I started to do my homework as far as what I needed for vendors and whatnot. And I was at a large trade show. I did trade shows for 10 years in healthcare because the last position that I held, I was a vice president of sales for a medical manufacturer. And so I was there to meet all my vendors. And I'm used to this whole trade show environment. And they had a women's night. I thought that's so cool. Like, I want to meet all these women. What are they doing? How did they get here? And we were really all tired. They just kind of put us in a room with cocktails, no food, no keynote speaker. And I was like, well, this is kind of strange. And I went home and I said, you know what? I'm going to spend some money. I want to go and find other expos out there for women in cannabis. And I couldn't find anything. So I went back to my mentor and said, would you be comfortable with me starting a testing lab as well as hosting an expo for women in cannabis? And my mentor said to me, they don't have anything. And I said, I haven't found anything. Like, I've been looking. There are some chapter groups that are out there, like Women Grow, and those are fantastic. But there was not a specific trade show that had been geared towards women. And my mentor said, you know what, you did it for 10 years. You know what a layout of a trade show should look like. And so, yeah, do it. And that's really how we got started launching Women in Cannabis Expo January of 2020.
I love your story and everything you have going on. You've got a photography business, e-commerce. So this was your first venture as a founder and CEO, so to say, owner?
This is my second. The photography business I also had for 10 years. So okay. I did a lot of weddings, a lot of it was all family, boudoir, children, and weddings. That was really my expertise. And so that was my real first go at having like my own thing. But this really was a step above because I was really cohesively doing my photography business while still working in healthcare, because weddings typically happen on a weekend. So it was good extra residual income I was making for my family. Who doesn't love going to a wedding? Everybody tends to be in a really good mood. You just have to get all the photos before everybody starts drinking, because then it's downhill from there. So that was really my first go at it. But this has been my real first go at having several entities that this is all I focus on full time. And so that's really the big difference for me, is that I'm no longer in healthcare and that I've been doing this full time for 3 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you started pretty much when the pandemic started as well. So can you talk a little bit about your struggles having to figure out where, when, and how to have events?
Absolutely, because that was definitely the first big challenge we ran into. So, like I mentioned, I launched in January of 2020, and then I signed the hotel contract February of 2020. And then in March of 2020 is when our state of Nevada shut down. We did our first 2 week shutdown, and then it kind of rolled on. But it gave me time to really sit and promote the whole program, what I planned on doing, getting really amazing speakers to uplift women in this industry. And so we really didn't know that we weren't going to have our first show until a month before. The hotel called, and at the same time, I had actually almost died. Today is my 2 year anniversary of post op surgery, life saving surgery.
Wow.
And I was literally in the hospital, and the casino called because we were supposed to have it September of 2020. And they said, oh, well, if you plan on having your event, you can only have 50 people. And I said, I have 40 speakers and like 10 volunteers. That's not going to work. But I'm also trying not to die right now. So I think maybe right now might be a good idea to keep the same time of September and just push it to 2021. I think more people will know what they're doing. And of course, a lot of businesses were really willing to navigate through these really unprecedented times that we've never experienced. And so that's exactly what we did. We moved it to 2021, and we just continued to promote it for a year and 8 months. And so I think there was a lot of value add there because, yes, we were still trying to get our first show off the ground, but that bought us a lot more time to focus on specific things that we wanted on at the show, raffle prizes, speakers, the schedule, the timeline of everything, sponsors, exhibitors. So I feel like it was actually kind of a blessing. But it was definitely very tricky. And I think that all of us in business have realized that Zoom is our new best friend. A lot of companies realized they did not need the workers in office and everybody could be remote. And so I think there were some really beautiful things that came from COVID, but it was definitely, as a new business owner, full time, very, very challenging to try to get my first show off the ground and be navigating through all of the stuff. But I will say this, here we are 3 years later, we're not necessarily dealing with COVID as much as now we're going into an economic recession. And so it is tricky in business, and you just have to get ready for the pivoting and know what you need to do and how you need to get there, and know that you're going to get things that are thrown in your way, like what's going on with the economy right now, and just kind of navigate your way through it. And just know that if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, eventually you'll get there.
Great. Yeah, that's great advice. You mentioned that you had a mentor. Has anyone ever reached out to you for mentorship?
I do mentor a few women that I have met on my journey. One of our photographers that comes to all of our events, she was telling everybody in Denver, she was at our New Jersey show this year, and she was at our Denver event. She'll be in Vegas and San Francisco. And I hadn't heard her say this, but then she said this, I was like kind of fired. And she goes, oh, Brooke's my mentor. I want to follow this one. And I was like, that is really the sweetest thing I've ever heard. And she goes, no, I mean it. I mean it. I just think everything you're doing and like your energy and who you are. And she said, you were the first woman in cannabis to be nice to me. And I said, really? I said, that's awful. That is so, like that's horrible that people have been bad to you. And I said, I adore you. So I have been mentoring some women along the way, and it's been really nice in my journey because I feel like that's a way to pay it forward. From my mentorship that I received is to pay it forward, mentoring others, and I absolutely love it.
Kind of leads me to my next question. You obviously speak with lots of women in the industry. I would imagine you speak with a decent amount of men as well. When you're at a lot of these events, either attending or speaking, especially now that it seems like we're headed towards an economic recession, can you share any kind of hardships or obstacles that small businesses or people in general are dealing with, specifically in the cannabis industry?
I think we're actually dealing with, I think, oftentimes more struggles than a regular industry because we're so heavily regulated, and you can't, go to a bank and get a bank loan or a dispensary. And it's really, we're all cash flow operated. We did see a huge downturn in 2020 as far as women in the industry. Women had been leaving in big numbers, and that is because they're not the business owner and they're not making the same pay. So we're seeing some things that transpired in previous industries have been transpired over into the cannabis realm. And it's been really difficult because at the end of the day, I think all of us are here with generally same goals, having a business, being a business owner. Part of what I do is also to help inspire women and to bring them together collaboratively. So I think that that's been a real blessing to have that. But we are definitely still navigating through a lot. And what I tell people is that even in my experience of doing trade shows for 10 years, now hosting my own trade shows, and I've been attending a lot of trade shows, the body count is very low. I've noticed that we have travel has been an issue, and it's not because of COVID travel, it's because the expense of travel. We're seeing $5-6 a gallon for gas, and that translates over into everything that we do, including commercial air. So when you and I met at CushCon, that plane ticket for me just to get from Reno to Tampa, which this is crazy, my plane ticket was almost $1,200.
Wow.
And that's really not a norm. Yeah, so I think we're all feeling it, and I think it's going to really affect some companies staying in business and some not, because at the end of the day, they've got to have that cash flow revenue coming in, and if they don't, it really affects them. And because we are cash capital, get going, then you have to go back to the investors. Well, I need more. Like, here's what's going on. And you have to navigate through those tricky waters. And so I think the best advice that I would give to anybody is, again, as I mentioned earlier, keep going one foot in front of the other. You have to really understand that things are going to happen that are out of your control. And when they do, you need to be proactive. So if you need more capital, go back to your investors. Here's what's happening. We lost a lot of clients because of the economy, or, we need to do a sale, or we need extra capital to get us through 6 months so we can bridge that gap so we don't close, and really asking what they need. And so that is the one thing I try to remind people is the worst thing anybody can say to you is no. And so you need to ask and you need to prepare for what's happening, because if you don't, then you could be a sinking ship. And we've seen a lot of businesses in cannabis this year, shocking news of companies closing down, such as Jay-Z's delivery system. Jay-Z is a multi-millionaire rapper who has plenty of funding to fund his business. But at the end of the day, he's coming up against high taxation in California and the economy. And that is really, he had to make a decision. Is this going to be viable for me anymore or not? And he was like, done, we're closing. The National Association of Cannabis Business, they shut down. We've been seeing dispensaries laying off workers. So we are feeling it just like every other industry, but it's important just to know, just stay on your course and be proactive. If there's something that you need to get you to bridge that gap of the 6 months or the 12 months, you got to be proactive, and you got to really be transparent. If you have investors who have invested in you with capital, you need to be transparent with them where the numbers are shaking out, because it's not going to help you if you go to a meeting and you're like, well, you get ready to fail, and they're like, we could have stepped in and helped you. So you need to ask the question, I think, is the biggest thing, and kind of really know what's going on in the industry. And we are feeling it just like everyone else. So I will say it's a little scary right now. That's how I interpret kind of what's going on. It's a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, communication, especially with investors or anyone associated with your business, and the ability to pivot, especially if travel is too expensive and you can't get to an event or attend an event. You need to be able to still figure out how you can reach people and network.
Your network is your net worth.
Absolutely.
So I tell people that all the time. Your network is your net worth, and you need to be able to reach out to those people who are in business who can then help support you, and you support them as well.
So you mentioned like 10 years worth of trade shows. Is that your big networking is that how you network the most, or is there other strategies you may have for networking?
Actually, how I have strategized for networking in this industry is really utilizing all of social media, LinkedIn, LeafWire, which is like LinkedIn, but it's for cannabis professionals such as ourselves who have businesses in the industry, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Unfortunately, you can't run ads on those things, but you definitely can find women who are in this space. And then the other way that I have networked is I attend other trade shows. I have a booth at other trade shows, and I'm showcasing my e-commerce and the Women in Cannabis Expo. For example, last year at the end of the year, I reached out to a show, and they called me, and the lady goes, "I think you're confused. Like, we're a trade show and you're a trade show." And so right off the bat, I could tell she was feeling like there was like a competition thing. And I said, "Here's the deal. You're right. I'm a trade show. You're a trade show. We're in cannabis. But here's why I want to participate with you. I want to have a booth at your show to get clients signed up for my show. And I want you to be at my show to get clients signed up for your show." And they had never had a person tell them that before. And I was like, why? That's how we all network together and we keep growing what we're doing. So it was, I'm still helping people along the way when it comes to networking through trade shows. The other way that I do that is, like I said, I have a booth and I showcase the Women in Cannabis Expo. I showcase my e-commerce, which is Legally Blonde and Blunt, and I talk about both. And so I have people at the table, and then I'm also usually a speaker at some of these other shows. And then those shows will be at my show, and they will tell people about what they have going on, such as KushCon. They are going to be at either our Vegas or our San Francisco show, and they can get people pre-registered, offer $50 off if they get signed up at our show, give them some kind of incentive. But that has been a really great way to network. I think oftentimes companies too much of the time think of each other as competition instead of how can we work together as a team? Because there's enough for all of us. There's enough in this industry for it all to go around plenty. But if you have that mindset that that's competition, then that's already a negative mindset. And you really have to pull yourself out of that and think, how can I make this transaction positive? And how can I turn it into something that's going to increase my network? And that's how I've been able to do some of those things.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, we're a cannabis media company, and we interview other podcasts and I look at it the same way. Like, why not help each other? I mean, you don't do exactly what I do. I don't do exactly what you do. So even if we're in the same realm, I'm sure there's business to be made. And so I love that approach, and I think it's excellent. Keep doing it, obviously. So
I appreciate that. That's a great approach. It really is.
Yeah, and it seems quite effective, especially as far as networking goes. Can you just briefly talk about Legally Blonde and Blunt and what inspired you to create this company?
I will. So I noticed, as I mentioned earlier, I said, if you would have asked me if I was in the cannabis space, I would have laughed. I told you that same year I almost passed away. I came within a couple hours of losing my life. I was very sick by the end of 2020. I really did not have a relationship with cannabis. I had tried it at 18, and you got bad cannabis or good cannabis. You did not get to go into a fancy dispensary and be like, so here's what's happening. So I was very sick by the end of 2020, and I lost weight, and I was like not keeping my food down. I went into a dispensary and did not tell them I worked in the business. I was like, look, I'm interested. I need some alternative things to help me. I had a section of my colon removed, and here's kind of what's going on. And it was really the bud tender. I said, I had a panic attack, and they said, stay away from pining. The terpene pining will cause that anxious feeling. I said, great. So they really set me up. Here's some edibles. Try this, try this. I said to them, okay, I love the vapes. Like, where's the pink? Like, where's the pink and where's the purple? And the guy was like, what? We don't have any of that. I'm like, glitter? And he's like, no. And I said, why? Like, why don't you have that? So what really inspired me was seeing that all of these dispensaries and these bud tenders, they are doing a fantastic job educating clients such as myself. But they're missing an opportunity. And that's where I really honed in, just like I did for the Women in Cannabis Expo. I was like, I'm a professional. People don't think of me as using cannabis to medicate, to recreationally have a great time. And I just saw that there was niche were like, I don't want a green pipe. I want pink. I want bling. I want girly stuff. And I was actually referenced, someone called me the legally blonde of the cannabis industry because I do have a master's in criminal justice, and people really didn't see me coming, and they're like, oh dang, like she's here. And so Legally Blonde and Blunt is really woman-centric, girly, the pink, the purple. We've been vetting product this year. We've been slowly starting to add stuff to the website. We don't have stuff for purchase yet, but we're slowly adding it because that's like a whole nother thing because I have 2 big shows to get through. But I have beautiful vapes that say Girl Boss on them with flowers and roses and purple camo. And I've got hats and swag, and I have glitter pipes that you freeze. You put them in the freezer. So when you put your flower in it, it gives it a cooling sensation. So we are coming at the industry. We are navigating through doing our e-commerce, and then also looking at having contracts with dispensaries with our products, and they are not touching the plant. So I don't need a special license because it's apparel, it's jewelry, and it's all the accessories for your cannabis use. And that's really how it came about.
Awesome. Like a true entrepreneur, there was a need for somebody to come in and create this space, product, service, and awesome. So we'll be looking forward to when the products are officially launched, and we'll be able to share that information with everybody.
Yeah, they can go on our Instagram. There's an Instagram page, so we've been slowly putting certain things on there that we've been getting, and they can go to legallyblondeandblunt.com to look at our website. And like I said, we're navigating through getting the pay piece on there and then having products on there that people can buy. So shirts and cute stuff. And then we do still have 2 more trade shows this year. And so we bring our Legally Blonde and Blunt. I mean, it's my trade show, so I get to have my own booth at my own trade show. And I showcase all the products. But we do have 2 more shows for the Women in Cannabis Expo this year. We did 4 total. We gave out, so far to date, we've given out 58 awards to women. So we're not just trade show specific, we're awarding women, we're getting them scholarships, raffle prizes, education.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, Brooke, you were a great guest today. Thank you again for coming on the CannaBiz show. Please let everybody know the best place that they can reach you.
Absolutely. So they can reach me at Women In Cannabis Expo at yahoo.com. They can always call our office line, which is 775-800-1414, which is pretty easy. And they can always head to our website, which is womeninCannabisExpo.com, and find us on all social media platforms and send me an email. I'm on everything, and so I'm always checking and writing people back. And that is how they can dial in and get to be with us at one of our shows this year. We'd love to have them.
Excellent. And I'll make sure we link everything in the description below. So awesome. Great. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you go down and hit the like button, leave a comment for Brooke and her businesses that she has going on. Some great stuff. So we're looking forward to watching you grow as well. And if you want to see more great content like this, you got to make sure you subscribe to Dro TV on YouTube so that you don't miss more excellent interviews like this with awesome people like Brooke. So thanks again for coming on the show and being on Dro TV. It was great. More great episodes on the way. That's it for today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having us. Bye.